Hi, I'm Vlad. This week I'm going to talk about dealing with people who poke fun at us, make rude comments, concern troll us, and who are generally haters. As you might imagine, given I grew up with disabilities, albinism, and especially autism, I got more than my fair share of this kind of thing back when I was in school, especially on the playground. And I didn't get much sympathy from my parents or other adults. I was always told to ignore it and the bullies would stop, or that the other kids were jealous of the way I looked, and other obvious lies. But above all, I was given the message that if I got made fun of, it was somehow my fault, or that I actually deserved it. Having lived through this myself and seen what it's done to others, I believe there really isn't much a single victim of this kind of thing can do to stop the hater's behavior, unless the victims of it can get the larger community to agree that the bullying needs to stop. I'm frankly appalled that years after I went through this and witnessed it as a child, bullying still isn't being adequately addressed on school playgrounds across the U.S. But I am grateful that despite conservative opposition to anti-bullying initiatives, there are at least a few school districts that are willing to take the issue seriously. And there now exist some organizations specifically dedicated to spreading the word about protecting vulnerable kids from bullying. Having said all of that, I believe as an adult there are things I can do to keep my self-esteem intact in the face of such things. One is to avoid such people when possible. When that isn't possible, say if it's a relative or someone in your workplace or school, the best thing is to pretend to ignore it and always act politely so as not to escalate the situation. Then find solidarity with others in a similar situation so you can commiserate and get specific advice on how further to deal with the situation. In my case, this was largely after the fact, since they didn't have the internet as we know it back when I was a kid. When it comes to asexuality specifically, I'm grateful to say I haven't had much experience with haters and bullies. Most of my experience has been with things like being left out of stuff because I wasn't sexual, so I wasn't on the prowl for a partner, or just people's well-meaning ignorance. So I can't speak specifically to the issue from experience. But I can offer some thoughts on how I'd want to respond to the situation if and when it ever comes up. First of all, regardless of what they say, I'd want to avoid responding in kind, since it might just be a matter of ignorance rather than intentional rudeness on their part. So I might feel like telling them a little bit about the realities of being asexual and dispel some of the common misconceptions about things like asexual reproduction or the difference between asexuality and celibacy, or between sexuality and libido, and so on. If, on the other hand, the hater is going about it in a homophobic or anti-queer manner, I'd just walk away and not respond to them, but instead put it up on Tumblr or the blogosphere as another example of why ACEs really do have a place in the LGBT movement. Like I was saying above, some forms of harassment can't be addressed by yourself but need the community's help, so seeking out support is the better way to handle this, in my opinion. As for concern trolls, again, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between someone who genuinely cares but just doesn't have the social skills to express that in an appropriate way, and someone who is genuinely trolling. So I would go the education route first, and if that didn't work, I'd politely assert my boundaries, saying something like, "Thank you for your concern, but I don't need your help with this." If they persist, I'd politely say, "We've already discussed this, and I've told you that I don't need your help with this, so please stop." If that fails, I'd try the avoidance thing and seek support elsewhere. Basically, the way I see it, you never want to be drawn down to their level, no matter how much their words hurt. And you can find support among the ACE community online through membership in one of the many fora that exist on the net. Then walk tall and proud as an ACE, and don't ever look back.